if you go out on Route 2.4 to that quirky old town that's a shambles no more, and you find that old doctor and buy him a drink and ask him of all his advice, does he think there's one real key that's the most beneficial? Well, he'll smile, and he'll pause, and he'll look quite official. He'll say, drink red wine. And when you're in a funk, just laugh. Folks around you will just think you're drunk. Folks, thank you very much for having me.
I've had a pretty interesting background. I was a stand-up comedian, worked with many people who went on to become stars, and here I am with you. I'm also a psychologist and a police chaplain. I've had a pretty diverse career. Over the years of my career, I have become passionate about quality of life. Not about what you do specifically. I don't have information that's relevant to your business pertinently. But in terms of you and me as creatures walking around, the quality of our life and enjoying what you do and enjoying the quality of your life. You know this, those of you from the United States. Americans lead the world in stress-related disorders. You do know that, correct? Right? 1 out of 4 of us have a diagnosable stress-related disorder. 1 out of 4. So look around. You know, if the 3 people sitting next to you look okay, you know, it's you.
After I finished my presentation, this teacher came up and she said, oh, I'll tell you, she says, these young teachers got to understand it, and my older colleagues need to understand. If you don't have hobbies in your life that fill your heart and fill your soul, the children kind of drain it over years and years, kind of like your battery going dead. Oh, she says, I think it's just important to have fun in life. Me, she says, I have a garden. I don't do a lot of that exercise stuff. I walk, but I have a beautiful garden. I teach 3rd grade, and I name my flowers after my students. Just like that, she said. And of course, she pulled me right into it, and I said, oh, that's precious. Oh, yes, she says, because if you have a bad day, well, you go home, pick them, and pluck their little heads off like that.
That donut has 19 grams of fat. If you swallowed this, Pat, it would just be 4 grams of fat. 4 goes into 19 how many times? Almost 5 times. So, Pat, can I have your hand, please? Somebody here? Here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to make a donut, because I know you eat donuts with your fingers, don't you?
Of course.
So this will be just like that, Pat. Here we go. You're having your first bite. And a second bite. Ooh, can y'all feel the healing out there? Can you feel it through Pat right here? And there's 3. And there's 4. And there's a scant, almost full. See, not quite full. 5.
And so she said at 5'8" and 260 to me, help me with this. You're supposed to know about it. And I said, you know, I'd love to help you, but really what you need is a referral to a gastric surgeon. You actually need stomach surgery because your BMI is greater than 40. And she said, no, I don't want that. I want you to help me cure this with lifestyle changes. So I gave her a 9-inch plate. And I said, on the plate, there ought to be half vegetables and a quarter lean protein, poultry or fish or soy. And the other quarter should be nuts and legumes and whole grains and low-fat dairy. And we started that way. We started with Oprah's advice. Oprah has said, I've been on a lot of diet programs, and there's nothing like getting up in the morning and going for a walk. So she started with the half block that she could walk without becoming short of breath. And over the next 3 years, she actually walked a half marathon at once. She lost 120 pounds. We talked regularly, and she did really well.
Ready to go? Good, because I'm going to teach you about heart disease this morning. So I'm going to teach you how an apple a day can keep the doctor away, but we're first going to start a little bit about the fact that heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the industrialized nations, which of course includes anybody in this room, as well as any race, any religion, any gender, because heart disease is an equal opportunity disease. So we're going to look at the first slide, and this is what the individual that works in the pathology lab sees. Not that you want to see a dead heart this morning, but here it is. So this is what a heart looks like to a pathologist, and just a couple of points to make here. First of all, if you look at the arrows coming down that heart, that's an artery that supplies one of the major pumping muscles to the heart, and that artery is actually very full of fat. So I'm going to tell you about that in just a second, but also look at the fact that that heart muscle is purple, and that means it's dead. So by the time your heart reaches the pathology lab, it's too late. So I would like to actually tell you how to prevent it.
I came home to my dream house in Denver, Colorado. I walked in the door. I saw how beautiful it was. I had just refinanced. I had decorated it within an inch of its life. It was perfect, and I was never leaving. And again, whatever that source or voice is, said to me, all of the reasons that you needed and wanted this house are complete. Go. The voice did not say go where. So I put my house on the market. It sold in 60 days in 2010. And I gave away all of my belongings to my family and friends. And for the last 2.5 years, I have lived around the world without a house, not much of a plan. And it has turned into 2.5 years of juicy, exciting adventure and fun and service, and lots of lessons. So I do feel like it is my mission to help you understand the steps that you can take to make your next step.
The second part of loving with an Amaze and Amuse heart is to be empathetic and to actually step into the shoes of another person. And this is much, much harder than it sounds. Many of us think we're living in a state of empathy, but really we're living in a state of judgment. And if someone says, I've got an emergency, it's like, tell me what the emergency is. Let me decide whether or not this is really an emergency, instead of stepping into that other person's shoes. Many of you I had conversations with last night, and I love to go around and I ask you 2 questions. I ask you, what do you love about your job? And then I ask, what makes you crazy? And when I went around, and you guys didn't let me down a bit. Yeah, there were some answers about, I love the fact that it's different every day and I get to have a lot of variety. But across the board, the number one answer had to do with people. I love the people I'm taking care of. I love the veterans we're serving. I love my coworkers. I love the patients. I love their families. I love the residents. I love people. Yeah. So what drives you nuts? What do you think the number one answer is? People!
My talk is actually kind of serious. So I want you to imagine a career where every day you get to intimately connect with people when they're at their most vulnerable. It's a career where complete strangers will open up to you entirely, and where you're blessed to be able to deeply touch other people and have them touch you in return. It sounds amazing. I hope this thing works. And it is, and it's always the career that inspired me. But the harsh reality is that becoming an adult film star has a huge barrier to entry.
There is one way in research that's pretty clear that shows you how you can take hip fat off, but you're not going to like it. You can take hip fat off by breastfeeding. And some of you women are thinking, that ship has sailed. That train has left the station. Grandma, put that baby down. There's an image that'll stick in your mind tonight.